Understanding people without their awareness is a powerful tool in navigating relationships, fostering connections, and protecting oneself from potential pitfalls. Drawing on the wisdom of Stoic philosophy, this guide reveals how to subtly read people's intentions, emotions, and motivations. The Stoics, with their deep understanding of human nature, championed the art of keen observation and emotional discipline, two skills essential to uncovering the unspoken. They believed that by observing actions over words and maintaining a sense of detachment, one can gain clearer insights into others' true feelings and intentions. In modern life, where words often mask deeper motives, the ability to read nonverbal cues, understand tone, and pick up on subtle emotional shifts can give you an edge in both personal and professional interactions. But this skill, grounded in patience and empathy, is not about manipulation. Instead, it's about understanding human nature, honoring boundaries, and making choices that align with your well-being and values. In this video, we'll explore the Stoic-inspired techniques for reading people with a calm, respectful approach, helping you develop a profound, authentic understanding of those around you without them ever realizing it. 1. Practicing patience and calm observation. We live in a time of rapid-fire opinions, where instant reactions and judgments are encouraged by social media and fast-paced news cycles. But what if, instead of responding immediately, we took a step back to observe calmly and without judgment? This is where the wisdom of the Stoics becomes invaluable. Philosophers like Marcus Aurelius believed that cultivating patience and the art of quiet observation could reveal truths that hasty reactions often cloud. By learning to observe with patience and without prejudice, we're not only able to understand others better, but also gain a truer insight into ourselves. The virtue of patience, a cornerstone of Stoic wisdom. In his famous work Meditations, Marcus Aurelius constantly reminds himself of the value of patience. To him, patience was not just a tool for coping, but an essential virtue that reveals the true nature of reality and those around us. By taking the time to observe rather than react, we become more discerning and less influenced by our immediate emotional impulses. Patience, for the Stoics, is a kind of armor. When we practice patience, we protect ourselves from the chaos and distractions of the world. We learn to become spectators rather than impulsive participants in every drama that unfolds around us. Marcus Aurelius often observed how others acted without rushing to judge or impose his own biases on them. This approach not only brought him clarity, but also fostered a profound sense of compassion for the people he ruled. By adopting a patient mindset, he believed we can attain a more accurate understanding of human behavior and motivations. The power of calm observation, seeing beyond surface reactions. Imagine a scenario. Someone cuts you off in traffic or a coworker dismisses your idea in a meeting. Our instinct might be to react, to honk, to feel insulted, or even to lash out. But what if instead we took a moment to observe quietly? This act of restraint is powerful. When we allow ourselves to observe, we also allow space for empathy, understanding, and most importantly, perspective. Calm observation helps us see that people's actions are often shaped by factors beyond our knowledge or control. A hurried driver might be late for an emergency. A dismissive coworker could be dealing with stress. By observing without judgment, we don't excuse inappropriate behavior, but we give ourselves the freedom to respond thoughtfully rather than react impulsively. Calm observation is a gateway to seeing situations as they truly are, not as our emotions interpret them. Lessons in practicing patience: how to cultivate a Stoic perspective. Pause before you react. One of the simplest yet most profound practices in Stoic philosophy is to take a brief pause before reacting. This pause, often only a few seconds, gives us the space to choose our response, rather than be governed by our immediate emotions. It may feel challenging at first, but the power of a pause lies in its ability to shift our perspective. Observe with curiosity, not judgment. Marcus Aurelius reminds us that when we observe others, we should do so without judging immediately. Try approaching others' actions with curiosity, rather than labeling them as good or bad. Ask yourself, what could have led them to act this way? What might I not understand about their behavior? This shift from judgment to curiosity opens the door to compassion. Recognize your own biases. It's important to acknowledge that we all carry biases and preconceptions. Stoics, including Epictetus and Seneca, emphasized self-awareness as a foundation for understanding others. When we approach others with our biases unchecked, we often see not who they are, but rather a reflection of our own insecurities and prejudices. Recognizing our biases allows us to observe others more objectively. Practice empathy in observation. Empathy is not always about feeling what someone else feels, but rather understanding that others have their own valid experiences and struggles. This understanding leads to a calmer, more compassionate view of the world. When you observe with empathy, you are not looking for reasons to judge, but for reasons to connect. Practicing patience and observation can feel challenging in a world that rewards reactivity. However, as we begin to adopt these Stoic practices, we often find a sense of peace and clarity that hasty reactions never provide. Relationships improve because we learn to listen more than we speak. We find ourselves less affected by the opinions and actions of others, grounded instead in our own calm and self-assured mindset. Marcus Aurelius frequently wrote about the importance of staying grounded and unaffected by the outside world. He believed that by remaining patient and quietly observing, we could avoid being swept away by temporary emotions or events. This is a skill that allows us to remain steady and consistent in our values, unaffected by external turbulence. Practicing patience and calm observation is not about suppressing emotion or becoming detached from life. Instead, it's about approaching life with a clear, discerning mind, where every reaction and decision is thoughtful, grounded, and intentional. This is the path that Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, and countless other Stoics walked, and it's one that offers profound rewards for those willing to embrace it. Imagine what life could look like if we were less reactive, more thoughtful, and deeply attuned to the motives and emotions of others. Picture yourself handling challenging situations with grace, responding to negativity with understanding rather than defensiveness, and embracing both yourself and others with patience and compassion. This is the life that Stoic patience and observation can create, a life of clarity, resilience, and peace. The journey is challenging, yes, but the reward is invaluable. To observe patiently is to live with intention, guided by wisdom rather than impulsive reactions. And as we continue to practice this ancient art, we may find that the world around us changes, not because it's different, but because we have learned to see it with clearer, calmer eyes. 2. Focusing on nonverbal language. As Marcus Aurelius noted, the truth isn't always in what people say. It's often found in what they do and how they carry themselves. Learning to read nonverbal cues, body language, facial expressions, eye contact, opens a door to a clearer understanding of others and, ultimately, of ourselves. Imagine sitting across from someone who insists they're calm, yet their hands are trembling and their posture is tense. Words can mask feelings, but the body seldom lies. This nonverbal language is a rich and complex system that we all inherently use, yet few of us truly understand it. From the furrow of an eyebrow to the crossing of arms, body language speaks a silent but potent truth. When we focus on these subtle cues, we gain a deeper insight into emotions and intentions that might otherwise remain hidden. For Stoics like Marcus Aurelius, actions and expressions were windows into a person's true nature. They believed in observing without judgment, understanding that nonverbal cues provide an unfiltered view of human nature. By paying attention to nonverbal signals, we can often see past pretenses and grasp the reality of what others are experiencing, often before they're willing or able to admit it themselves. The way people position their bodies and move in space can convey confidence, fear, insecurity, or openness. Consider the difference between someone who stands tall with an open stance and someone who hunches over, arms crossed tightly. The former exudes confidence and receptivity, while the latter may indicate discomfort or defensiveness. Learning to observe these postures without immediately passing judgment allows us to interpret situations more accurately. In my experience, observing posture has been incredibly revealing. I recall a situation where a friend, who insisted everything was fine, repeatedly crossed and uncrossed her legs, fiddling with her hands. Her body language spoke louder than her words, signaling anxiety and restlessness. Rather than pressing her for details, I offered calm reassurance. Eventually she opened up, This taught me a powerful lesson. Nonverbal cues aren't just information, they're invitations to approach others with empathy. The human face is a canvas of emotions. A single look can convey joy, anger, sadness, or surprise. Stoic philosophy teaches us to read these expressions as indicators of inner states. When someone smiles genuinely, the corners of their eyes crinkle, a Duchenne smile, signaling true joy. Conversely, a forced smile lacks this eye involvement, hinting that something may be amiss. By focusing on these details, we learn to distinguish genuine emotions from those that are fabricated. Understanding facial expressions helps us respond more compassionately. I once met a colleague who, despite smiling, had tension around her eyes and a tightness in her mouth. Recognizing the incongruence, I gently inquired if she was all right, and she confided in me about her stressful morning. That experience underscored how facial expressions, even when subtle, offer clues to the emotions someone may be trying to mask. The window to the soul, eye contact and its messages. Eyes, as the saying goes, are the windows to the soul. Eye contact, or the lack thereof, can reveal a great deal about a person's state of mind. Sustained eye contact often signals confidence, honesty, or connection, while avoiding eye contact may indicate discomfort, shame, or even deception. However, as the Stoics advise, we should avoid making instant judgments. Observing someone's gaze is about understanding their comfort level and emotional state, not about making assumptions. For example, I remember feeling uneasy during a meeting with someone who kept glancing away when speaking. At first, I felt dismissed, but then I reminded myself of the Stoic approach to observe without immediate judgment. Later, I learned that he was dealing with social anxiety. This experience reinforced the importance of seeing eye contact, or lack thereof, as a piece of information rather than a conclusion. Sometimes, people's eyes tell us more about their struggles than their intentions. Actions over words, the Stoic belief in the truth of deeds. The Stoics emphasize that actions often reveal more than words. Words can be manipulated to present an image, but actions tend to reveal the truth. A person may promise to be there for you, but if they consistently fail to show up, their actions speak louder than their assurances. This principle is deeply embedded in Stoic thought. What people do consistently says more about their character than what they claim. In observing others, I've found that actions often confirm or contradict what is spoken. I once worked with someone who continually voiced support for teamwork, but habitually acted in self-interest. His actions taught me more about his true intentions than his words ever could. By prioritizing actions over declarations, we gain a more accurate understanding of others and protect ourselves from disappointment. One of the most challenging but rewarding Stoic practices is observing nonverbal cues without rushing to judgment. It's easy to assume that crossed arms mean defensiveness, or that lack of eye contact signals dishonesty. However, Stoic wisdom reminds us that context matters and that we can often misinterpret signals without understanding the full picture. I've found that when I approach nonverbal cues with curiosity instead of judgment, I see people more clearly and without bias. For instance, if someone speaks with a quiet voice and avoids eye contact, it might indicate shyness rather than dishonesty. By refraining from quick conclusions, I allow space for a deeper understanding and more compassionate responses. Integrating an awareness of nonverbal language into daily life can transform our relationships and interactions. When we start observing gestures, expressions, and movements, we deepen our connections and improve our understanding of others. This practice requires patience and self-awareness, qualities the Stoics valued greatly. In professional settings, for example, understanding nonverbal cues can make us more effective communicators. If a colleague seems distracted during a discussion, their body language might suggest they're dealing with external stressors. Addressing this subtly, rather than ignoring it, can build trust and rapport. In personal relationships, recognizing a loved one's unspoken needs through their gestures or expressions fosters empathy and strengthens bonds. Embracing the Stoic approach to nonverbal language allows us to navigate life with a clearer, more authentic perspective. When we prioritize actions, observe expressions, and look beyond words, we find truths that spoken language alone can't provide. The Stoics taught us to value deeds over declarations and to interpret gestures with patience and understanding. By focusing on nonverbal language, we become more attuned not only to others' experiences, but to our own responses. This journey teaches us patience, empathy, and the importance of mindful observation. In a world where words are abundant but often misleading, the ability to see what's unsaid is a powerful tool, one that brings us closer to the truth and helps us build genuine, lasting connections. Through Stoic wisdom, we learn that the quietest language spoken without words often speaks the loudest truths. 3. Listening instead of speaking. It's all too easy to feel that speaking up and asserting ourselves is the best way to be heard, valued, and understood. Yet there's something quietly powerful and often more profound about listening instead. Deep, active listening, as championed by the Stoics, goes beyond mere politeness. It's a skill, a choice, and a practice that allows us to connect, understand, and truly empathize with those around us. Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, and Seneca all understood the value of listening over speaking, stressing that to listen attentively is to give ourselves the space to understand people at a deeper level, often catching subtle cues that others may miss. When we stop trying to assert ourselves in every interaction and instead focus on understanding others, we uncover truths hidden in tone, word choice, and pauses. This is the essence of Stoic listening, an active, engaged process that lets us see beyond surface-level conversation and fosters real connections. Active listening isn't simply waiting for your turn to speak. It's a mindful practice of being fully present, absorbing what the other person is saying, and suspending judgment. Epictetus, a well-known Stoic philosopher, believed in the power of attentiveness, observing that people often reveal more than they realize through the way they speak. Stoics championed the art of observing language, and this doesn't mean just the literal words used. It includes tone, pacing, and the unspoken. For instance, someone might say, "I'm fine," but if the words are spoken with a slight hesitation or a soft sigh, there's likely more under the surface. Stoic philosophy encourages us to listen with curiosity rather than assumptions, seeing these nuances as opportunities to understand others better. This can transform everyday conversations into moments of genuine connection, where the other person feels valued and heard. The value of pauses and silence. In our society, silence is often seen as awkward or uncomfortable. Many people feel compelled to fill every pause with words, fearing that silence means something has gone wrong. But in Stoicism, silence is valuable. It allows thoughts to breathe, emotions to settle, and true feelings to come to light. A Stoic listener doesn't rush to fill silences. Instead, they embrace these quiet moments as windows into deeper understanding. I've personally found that pausing after someone speaks, even if it feels slightly uncomfortable, can yield surprising results. Often people will continue speaking, revealing more than they intended. Silence, used mindfully, invites people to reflect and opens the door for them to share something deeper. This aligns perfectly with the Stoic approach to letting truth reveal itself naturally, rather than prying it out through forced conversation. When you give someone the space to speak and the time to gather their thoughts, you're allowing their truth to emerge in its own time. Tone and word choice, clues to hidden emotions. A core component of active listening is paying attention to tone and word choice. Stoics believed in reading beyond the literal meaning of words to uncover what is truly being conveyed. Sometimes a person's voice reveals frustration, anxiety, or sadness, even if their words don't directly express it. When someone says, "I guess I'll just do it myself," the choice of words and the tone used, perhaps tired, resentful, or resigned, reveals much more than the simple phrase suggests. Practicing this kind of listening takes patience and restraint. Rather than reacting immediately to what is being said, take a moment to process it. For example, if a friend says, "I'm just so tired of everything," you might ask gentle, open-ended questions to better understand what they're going through, instead of offering quick solutions. Stoicism teaches us that our role in listening is not to solve or fix, but to provide a compassionate, understanding presence that allows others to feel seen. Listening with an open mind, suspending judgment and assumptions. To listen truly and actively, we need to set aside our own biases and assumptions. Marcus Aurelius wrote about the importance of approaching life with a mind open to learning and understanding rather than imposing one's preconceived notions onto others. This lesson applies perfectly to listening. If we approach conversations with the intent to prove something, we often miss the real message being shared. For example, if someone is telling you about a struggle they're facing, but you're already forming an opinion or response in your mind, you're no longer fully listening. To counter this, remind yourself to listen, not with the intent to respond, but to understand. This open-minded approach leads to a deeper, more empathetic form of listening that allows people to feel accepted as they are, not judged for their struggles or fears. The power of empathy in listening, seeing beyond ourselves. Listening with empathy isn't about sympathizing or pitying. It's about recognizing and valuing the unique experience of another person. The Stoics valued empathy, not as an emotional indulgence, but as a way to cultivate wisdom and resilience. By understanding the hardships and joys of others, we become more compassionate, resilient individuals. In my own experience, practicing empathy and listening has helped me strengthen my relationships and gain insights into the unique experiences of others. When we listen empathetically, we go beyond simply hearing someone's words. We tune into their experience, validating their emotions and giving them the space to be honest and vulnerable. This creates a bond based on trust and respect, a bond that Stoic philosophers believed could be a foundation of human connection. Listening as a practice in patience and self-control. One of the greatest challenges in practicing active listening is holding back the urge to speak or offer solutions. Stoicism teaches us that self-control and patience are essential for personal growth. Epictetus famously taught that we should seek first to understand, then to be understood. This is difficult in a society that rewards quick responses and witty comebacks. But by developing the patience to listen fully, we exercise a critical Stoic virtue, self-restraint. It's common in conversation to feel the need to fix the problems of others or to offer advice. But Stoic listening isn't about proving your worth by solving someone else's problem. It's about honoring the other person's experience. Often, people don't need solutions as much as they need understanding. As I've learned over the years, people remember how you made them feel far longer than they remember the advice you gave. Listening instead of speaking is a powerful Stoic practice that enriches our relationships, deepens our empathy, and helps us gain insight into others and ourselves. In a world where everyone is eager to be heard, choosing to listen instead is a radical act. It requires humility, patience, and a commitment to understanding others without judgment or assumption. The Stoics knew that by listening, we learn more about the world and ourselves than we ever could by simply speaking. 4. Understanding emotional reactions. In the quest for deeper, more meaningful relationships, there's one powerful skill we often overlook: the ability to understand emotional reactions. Observing how people respond, whether with a laugh, a look of frustration, or a hint of tension, can reveal insights into their thoughts, motivations, and underlying feelings. Emotions are windows into our inner world, and by learning to read them, we gain a greater capacity for empathy, self-awareness, and even self-control. This aligns deeply with Stoic philosophy, which teaches that managing and understanding our emotions, as well as those of others, is essential for personal growth and balanced relationships. Stoics like Marcus Aurelius and Seneca understood the power of emotions and believed that by observing our reactions and those of others, we can see the truth behind words. The power of emotional reactions, a gateway to inner thoughts. Emotions are powerful communicators. While words can be carefully crafted and sometimes deceptive, emotional reactions are often involuntary, revealing our most genuine thoughts and feelings. A forced smile, a sigh of relief, or a clenched jaw can convey far more than spoken language. When we learn to observe these reactions, we gain valuable insights into a person's state of mind that might otherwise remain hidden. For instance, a friend might say, "I'm fine," but if their body language shows tension or frustration, we know there's more to the story. By picking up on these signals, we open the door to deeper understanding. But understanding emotional reactions isn't only about observing others, it's about managing our own as well. Stoic philosophy teaches us that our emotional responses reveal our beliefs and values. If we react with anger to criticism, it might suggest insecurity or a need for approval. By recognizing this, we can start to understand ourselves more deeply and work on controlling our own responses. Stoic wisdom on observing without immediate reaction. One of the most profound Stoic principles is the idea of observing emotions without immediate reaction. Emotions, though intense, are often fleeting and changeable, and reacting impulsively can cloud our judgment. Marcus Aurelius famously wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This strength comes from observing our reactions and those of others with a sense of detachment. I found this practice to be transformative in my own life. When someone responds with anger or irritation, instead of reacting emotionally, I try to take a step back and ask myself, what is this reaction telling me? Are they feeling misunderstood, or perhaps overwhelmed? By observing without judgment, we can often see that others' reactions are not personal, but rooted in their own fears, stress, or insecurities. This approach allows us to respond with empathy and compassion rather than defensiveness, turning potential conflict into an opportunity for understanding. Recognizing different emotional reactions. Insights into state of mind. There are many types of emotional reactions, each offering unique insights into a person's thoughts and feelings. Understanding these responses not only improves our interactions, but also enriches our relationships. Laughter and smiling. Genuine laughter and smiles are often signs of joy, connection, and ease. However, forced smiles or laughter that seems out of place can indicate discomfort or even anxiety. Recognizing the difference can help us understand when someone feels genuinely happy versus when they're masking discomfort. Tension and clenched fists. Tension in the body, such as a clenched jaw or fists, can be a sign of suppressed anger or frustration. By noticing these physical cues, we can approach the situation with sensitivity and understanding, rather than provoking a deeper reaction. Eye contact and eye movement. Eye contact can tell us a lot about someone's confidence and comfort level. Averting eyes can signal nervousness or discomfort, while direct eye contact may show confidence and sincerity. Paying attention to these cues helps us gauge how comfortable or open someone is feeling in the moment. Pauses and hesitation. Pauses or hesitation in speech can signal uncertainty, doubt, or even reluctance to fully express oneself. Rather than jumping to conclusions, consider what might be causing this hesitation. Are they nervous about being judged or unsure of your reaction? By observing these reactions, we begin to understand not just what people are saying, but what they're feeling, even when they don't explicitly express it. Understanding emotional reactions isn't just about analyzing others. It's about fostering deeper connections by responding to others with compassion. According to Stoicism, the goal is to cultivate a state of mind where we are neither ruled by our emotions nor indifferent to them. Instead, we can use emotions as a bridge to connect with others without letting them control our actions. When we understand someone's emotional reaction, we can respond in a way that shows we truly see them. For instance, if a coworker responds with frustration, we might typically feel defensive or frustrated ourselves. However, if we recognize that their frustration may stem from feeling overwhelmed, we can respond with patience, offering support or understanding rather than adding to their stress. This is the essence of Stoic compassion, seeing beyond the immediate reaction and responding in a way that fosters connection and understanding. A crucial aspect of understanding emotions is learning to manage our own reactions. Stoicism teaches that while we can't control how others react, we can control how we respond. This skill is particularly valuable when faced with strong emotional reactions from others, as it allows us to maintain our composure and respond thoughtfully rather than impulsively. For example, if someone reacts with anger towards us, our initial impulse might be to defend ourselves. However, by practicing emotional control, we can pause, reflect on why this person might be angry, and choose to respond calmly. This doesn't mean ignoring our own feelings. Rather, it means choosing to act based on our values rather than our immediate emotions. This type of self-control is a hallmark of Stoic practice and a key to developing emotional intelligence. Understanding emotional reactions through the lens of Stoic philosophy enables us to connect with others on a deeper, more meaningful level. By observing others' reactions without immediate judgment and managing our own responses, we create space for empathy, insight, and authentic connection. Stoic wisdom teaches that by understanding emotions, both our own and others, we gain greater self-awareness and control, allowing us to respond from a place of clarity rather than impulsiveness. 5. Observing social interactions and relationships. In every relationship, friendship, or simple social interaction, there are layers of emotions, motives, and nuances that we often miss or misinterpret. Whether we're at a gathering, in a meeting, or simply engaging in casual conversation, observing the dynamics at play can reveal much more about people's personalities and motivations than their words alone. Stoic philosophers like Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, and Seneca emphasize the importance of observing human interactions thoughtfully, not with judgment, but with a desire to understand. They believed that through careful observation, we could uncover others' true intentions and act wisely within our relationships. Learning to observe social interactions, however, is more than just a skill. It's a mindset that, when rooted in empathy and curiosity, allows us to read between the lines of people's actions, words, and body language. The Stoic principle of observation without immediate judgment. The Stoics were masters of patience and neutrality, advocating for observation over impulsive reactions. To them, rushing to conclusions about others only clouds our perception, preventing us from seeing people as they truly are. Epictetus, in particular, emphasized that we shouldn't judge too quickly, but instead take time to observe and understand people's actions in context. In today's fast-paced world, where judgments are often made in a matter of seconds, adopting this mindset can be challenging, but incredibly rewarding. In my own experience, practicing non-judgmental observation has transformed my relationships. When I stopped assuming intentions and instead started observing, I found myself becoming more compassionate, patient, and understanding. I remember a colleague who often seemed dismissive, rarely engaging with others. Initially, I assumed he was uninterested or rude, but as I observed him over time, I noticed subtle cues, tension in his shoulders, his hesitation before speaking, which made me realize that he was likely dealing with social anxiety. This realization changed the way I approached him, helping me build a more understanding and supportive connection. Reading social cues, a guide to understanding personalities. Observing social cues is about paying attention to how people interact with others, from their gestures to their tone of voice and body language. These cues can reveal underlying personality traits and motivations that may not be immediately apparent. Here are a few cues to watch for. Eye contact and body language. A person's level of eye contact often indicates their comfort level, confidence, or sincerity. Those who maintain eye contact may be more confident and engaged, while those who avoid it might feel insecure or uncomfortable. Similarly, body language speaks volumes. Open gestures, relaxed postures, and leaning forward during conversations signal openness and engagement, while crossed arms, hunched shoulders, or avoiding direct contact can signal defensiveness or discomfort. Tone of voice and choice of words. How someone speaks, their tone, pacing, and choice of words often reveals their emotions and intentions. A person who speaks in a warm, open tone is likely more approachable and empathetic, while someone who speaks abruptly or with a monotone voice may be more reserved or cautious. Observing these verbal cues can help us understand not just what someone is saying, but how they feel about it. Microexpressions and small gestures. Small, fleeting facial expressions, often called microexpressions, can reveal someone's true emotions. A quick furrow of the brow, a brief smile, or a tightening of the lips can offer clues to someone's thoughts, even when they're trying to hide their feelings. Stoics believed in observing without overreacting, which allows us to notice these subtle signals without jumping to conclusions. Positioning in social settings. Where people position themselves in social settings can tell us a lot about their relationships and comfort levels. For instance, those who stand closer to others often feel a sense of trust and familiarity, while those who stand on the periphery may feel more reserved. Recognizing these patterns can provide insight into social dynamics and power structures within a group. Evaluating sincerity empathy, and social status. The Stoic approach encourages us to observe interactions to gauge sincerity, empathy, and even social status without bias or assumption. By paying attention to these subtle aspects of behavior, we can better understand people's motives and how they perceive their role in social settings. Sincerity. Observing sincerity goes beyond listening to words. It's about looking for consistency between someone's actions and expressions. Sincere individuals tend to be consistent in both their verbal and nonverbal communication. For instance, if someone offers a compliment, but their tone sounds flat or they avoid eye contact, it may suggest insincerity. Stoic observation teaches us not to immediately label these behaviors as deceitful, but to consider them with curiosity, understanding that sincerity can sometimes be influenced by nervousness or insecurity. Empathy. People who show empathy often use validating language, listen attentively, and respond thoughtfully to others' emotions. Empathetic people are also likely to engage in supportive gestures, such as nodding or mirroring emotions, which signal genuine concern for others. Recognizing empathy in interactions helps us identify people who value others' feelings, allowing us to build connections with those who demonstrate a capacity for understanding. Social status and positioning. The way people carry themselves and position themselves within a group often reflects perceived status or influence. Those with higher social status may be more assertive, engage in leading conversations, or display confidence through their posture. Meanwhile, individuals who adopt a quieter stance or avoid dominating conversations may feel less influential in the group. Recognizing these dynamics can help us navigate social situations more effectively, adapting our communication style based on the dynamics at play. Observing interactions as a mirror to self-awareness. Observing others isn't just about understanding them, it's also a way to reflect on our own responses and tendencies. In Stoicism, self-awareness is central to personal growth, and by observing how we react to others' behaviors, we gain insight into our own character. For example, if we notice a tendency to judge others quickly, it may highlight our own insecurities or biases. By becoming aware of these reactions, we can strive to be more understanding, patient, and empathetic in our interactions. In my journey with Stoic observation, I've learned that our judgments of others often reflect our inner struggles. For instance, when I felt irritated by someone's overconfidence, I realized that it stemmed from my own insecurities about speaking up in group settings. This awareness allowed me to approach both the individual and myself with greater understanding, helping me let go of judgment and focus on building mutual respect. Building authentic connections through Stoic observation. The beauty of Stoic observation is that it helps us build authentic, meaningful connections. When we take the time to truly see others without judgment, we create a safe space for them to express themselves honestly. People are more likely to trust and open up to those who listen without rushing to conclusions, making Stoic observation a powerful tool for fostering genuine relationships. For instance, in my own life, I've found that when I take the time to observe others without judgment, people tend to feel more comfortable sharing their true thoughts and feelings. This approach has allowed me to build deeper, more trusting connections with friends, family, and colleagues, simply by letting them be themselves and showing that I genuinely care. The Stoic approach to observing social interactions invites us to engage with others thoughtfully, allowing us to see them as they truly are, rather than as we assume them to be. Through careful, non-judgmental observation, we uncover motivations, understand social dynamics, and learn to navigate relationships with empathy and wisdom. By observing interactions mindfully, we can create deeper, more meaningful connections, free from the biases and judgments that often cloud our perception. 6. Practicing empathy without attachment. In a world that often values emotional intensity and deep personal connections, the idea of practicing empathy without attachment may sound paradoxical. After all, isn't empathy about feeling what others feel? Stoic philosophy, however, offers a different perspective. Empathy doesn't require us to lose ourselves in others' emotions. Instead, we can connect and understand deeply while still maintaining a clear boundary between their experiences and our own. This Stoic approach to empathy allows us to care sincerely for others without being overwhelmed or manipulated by their feelings. fostering relationships grounded in both compassion and objectivity. Practicing empathy without attachment doesn't mean being cold or distant. Rather, it's a mindset that enables us to offer genuine support and insight without losing ourselves in someone else's struggles. By observing emotions and understanding them without being consumed, we cultivate a balanced approach to relationships, one that enables us to be present for others while also preserving our own mental clarity. The Stoics, particularly Epictetus and Marcus Aurelius, believed in the importance of understanding human nature, motivations, and emotions. But they also taught that we should maintain a degree of detachment, observing others' emotions without becoming emotionally enmeshed. For the Stoics, empathy was a tool of observation, a way to understand the motivations behind people's actions, without letting those emotions overpower one's sense of self. In my own journey, adopting this Stoic approach to empathy has transformed my relationships. I've come to realize that when I allow myself to feel every emotion of those around me, I become clouded by their experience, unable to offer clear, rational support. For example, when a friend was struggling with a series of setbacks, I initially found myself feeling her frustration and sadness as if they were my own. It became overwhelming, but when I shifted to observing her emotions empathetically, understanding her pain without absorbing it, I was able to offer her more thoughtful support. I could listen, encourage, and offer perspective without feeling weighed down by emotions that weren't mine to carry. One of the most valuable lessons in practicing empathy without attachment is recognizing the importance of emotional boundaries. Emotional boundaries are the mental lines we draw to separate our feelings from the feelings of others. They're essential because without them, we risk losing our sense of self, making it difficult to offer genuine support. When we lack boundaries, we may find ourselves overwhelmed by others' emotions, reacting impulsively rather than responding thoughtfully. Imagine being in a situation where a loved one is experiencing intense anger. Without boundaries, you might find yourself mirroring that anger, becoming defensive or feeling anxious. But with emotional boundaries in place, you can observe their anger empathetically, understanding why they feel that way without letting it become your own emotional burden. This doesn't mean ignoring or dismissing their emotions. It means offering your support from a place of stability where you can respond rationally and compassionately. Balancing empathy and objectivity, viewing motives through a Stoic lens. Stoic empathy goes beyond understanding emotions. It's about understanding motivations. This approach allows us to view emotions objectively, helping us assess whether someone's motivations are genuine, manipulative, or self-serving. By maintaining emotional distance, we gain a clearer picture of people's true intentions and are less likely to be swayed by temporary emotions. In my experience, practicing detached empathy has allowed me to avoid being pulled into manipulative or self-serving situations. For instance, I once had a colleague who frequently expressed frustration and sought sympathy, often exaggerating his struggles to gain emotional support. When I first encountered this behavior, I felt compelled to console him constantly, taking his words at face value. But by practicing detached empathy, I began to see a pattern in his behavior and recognized his need for attention. Maintaining emotional distance allowed me to respond compassionately without being drawn into his narrative, ultimately helping me preserve my own emotional well-being. The value of detached empathy in personal relationships. Practicing empathy without attachment can be particularly valuable in personal relationships, where emotions often run high. Detached empathy allows us to be supportive partners, friends, and family members without losing ourselves in the emotions of those we love. This approach doesn't diminish the quality of our relationships. Instead, it strengthens them by allowing us to offer genuine support from a place of stability. For example, in a romantic relationship, detached empathy enables us to support our partner without mirroring every emotion they feel. If they're going through a difficult time, we can listen, offer encouragement, and be present without internalizing their struggles. This distance doesn't mean we care less. It means we can offer a stable foundation for them to lean on, rather than adding our own emotions to the mix. Empathy without attachment is a powerful practice that allows us to connect with others meaningfully without compromising our emotional well-being. Through the lens of Stoic philosophy, we learn that empathy doesn't require us to lose ourselves in others' emotions. Instead, it invites us to understand, support, and care from a place of clarity and stability. By observing emotions without internalizing them, we gain insight into others' experiences and motivations while also preserving our own sense of self. Practicing empathy without attachment is not a denial of care, but an elevation of it. It allows us to offer the highest quality of support, grounded, thoughtful, and resilient. This Stoic approach to empathy helps us build relationships based on true understanding rather than emotional entanglement, fostering connections that are supportive, compassionate, and enduring. Mastering the art of reading people through Stoic principles can profoundly enhance your interactions, helping you navigate relationships with clarity and confidence. By focusing on nonverbal cues, practicing active listening, and observing without judgment, you'll gain a clearer understanding of others' motivations and emotions. Remember, this skill is about fostering genuine connections, respecting boundaries, and making informed choices, not about control or manipulation. In aligning with Stoic wisdom, you cultivate patience, empathy, and self-awareness, qualities that not only allow you to read people effectively, but also empower you to act with integrity and purpose in every interaction. Thank you for watching. If you found this video helpful, hit that like button, subscribe, and share it with someone who might need to hear this. Let's strive to live better, more respectful lives. Until next time, stay strong, stay stoic.